I'm Trio. Welcome to You've Got This, Sis. I believe there are times we need a sis to see us for who we are, where we are, exactly how we are, and then see all that we can be. The sis that can do that with each of us is a real treasure. I've had my moments, sis. I realize that our connections to one another are absolutely gold. I know there are times that we journey solo, and there are times we journey with others. Both are completely necessary for our growth and increased strength as women. You are here with me, and I am here with you. And we will journey wherever you are now to your best self, always. Welcome to You've Got This, Sis. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's podcast. I've got my good friend Rachel Graham with me today, and we are going to be covering the topic of diabetes and kind of what that looks like in a family setting, as well as for a mom with a child that's diagnosed with it. And so I'm going to ask Rachel to share with us kind of her story, which just happened about a year ago. With her daughter, and kind of allow you guys to hear her heart on this and what happened for them. So Rachel, tell us about Avery's story and how that kind of unfolded for you guys.
Okay, so it actually started back at the beginning of September, and she had this abrasion on her head that wasn't healing. And it kept getting more and more infected, and we would take her to the doctor and get antibiotics, and the antibiotics were not working. And she kept losing a ton of weight, and I ended up putting her on like a 3,000 calorie diet full of carbs to try to get her to gain weight. And like she would gain a pound by the end of the day, but then the next morning we'd hop on the scale and she would drop another 3 pounds. And she was 5'2", and the lowest that we hit was 69 pounds by the time that we figured it out. But it was so frustrating because it was a game of troubleshooting. Mm-hmm. Like after the first appointment and then the antibiotics weren't working, I noticed that she was getting up and going to the bathroom at night. And so I would follow her to the bathroom. I thought maybe she had an eating disorder. Yeah. And then she wasn't throwing up, obviously, but I was like, oh, she's going to the bathroom a lot. And, after, so 3 doctor's appointments of no diagnosis, and I just called my mom in tears, and I'm like, my little girl who was playing volleyball, and she was normally so strong and so aggressive, could barely get a serve over the net, and that was about all she could do. She would do that, and then they'd pull her out because she didn't have the strength to bump a ball or anything else. Wow. But she was withering away. She would come home and just go to sleep because she had no energy. And I called my mom just in tears, and I told her everything. And then she called me back 5 minutes later, and she said, I've been on WebMD, and I think Avery's diabetic.
My goodness. And
as soon as she said that, it was like this light bulb in my head went off, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think you're right. Yeah. And so, fortunate for us, I did have another appointment scheduled, but my husband works at a facility with a bunch of healthcare providers. And so, he was like, Rachel, I think you're right. Bring her down here right now. There was a nurse practitioner at the facility, and she tested Avery's blood sugars right away. And as soon as the blood hit the test strip and it went to calculate her blood sugars, it said high, and she was like, take her to the ER now. This means she's over 600. Oh, wow. And so a typical person, their blood sugars are normally between 80 to 150. Mm-hmm. And so she had gone into DKA, and
so she went into DKA almost simultaneously with you guys just taking her to visit the nurse practitioner. Mm-hmm. Wow. I think about that, and it just, in a way, seems a little bit miraculous because, I guess we don't know what would have happened if you wouldn't have been there.
Oh, I don't ever, I can't think about that, actually. Yeah. If I do. So whenever we kind of made our own diagnosis and Joey was like, come to the facility right now, when I got Avery up, because she didn't go to school that day, she collapsed coming down the stairs. And so I just picked her up and put her in the car, and then actually gave her, we had some Gatorade Zero in the refrigerator, and so I just gave her that, and that kind of, I think, replenished her to get her up.
Wow.
To get her in to get the sugar tested, and then we immediately took her down to the...
So what was the next step once the nurse practitioner sent you guys to the hospital? Where did your journey go from there?
Oh, okay. So the hospital stay was very rough. We were there for 3 days.
Okay.
And so yes, her numbers were off the charts, and there was another number that I can't remember they said that it was deathly. And they were just trying to get her hydrated and to give her body the insulin that it needed. And so it took about, I want to say like 18 to 24 hours to get her numbers back within range. And in that time, they wouldn't let her eat because the sugar would just go straight into her bloodstream, and her pancreas wouldn't be able to produce the insulin it needed to process. So anyways, that was a rough 24 hours because she was so hungry and just sitting there. And then when she was realizing what her new normal was going to be, that was heartbreaking. So in the hospital, when she did finally get to eat, the nurse came in and brought her a menu and was like, well, choose from this. And she stayed there, and Avery's like, I'll choose and then let you know. She was like, well, you have to let me know now what it's going to be so I can let dietary know and they can calculate the carbs, so then we can give you an insulin shot for anyways. And she was like, am I going to have to give myself a shot every time I eat? And they were like, well, there are means and forms of technology so that it won't always have to be this way, but in the beginning, yes, it'll be this way. And we both just started crying because she goes, so I can never go to the pantry and just grab something anymore. And that was really hard to swallow as a kid.
Because I don't think we've given listeners the age that Avery was. So she was what, 12?
She had just turned 12.
Oh my goodness. So I mean, at any age, being diagnosed with diabetes is difficult, but especially at a time in your life when like it's just different and hard, and you're hitting puberty and you have other changes going on, but along with diabetes as well, on top of it all.
I actually think that was another miracle.
Okay.
So she had not hit puberty yet. And I feel like Heavenly Father gave us 4 solid months to get the hang of it before he threw that in there. And that was not as hard of a adjustment. But I do all the time. I was like, thank you. And they had prepared us for what it would look like with diabetes and, hitting puberty. So we were very prepared for once it did happen. And I feel like that was kind of a seamless adjustment.
Good.
So,
but I mean, even for adults, I mean, how many of us eat our emotions? How many of us, oh yeah, I feel like I want this right now, and we just go get it. And then to not have that freedom anymore, because if you do, you're going to pay in a pretty bad way. So yeah, for her to realize that, it was worthy of tears for both of you. Okay, so we got the diagnosis. She's at the hospital. She's realizing she's going to have to take a shot. When did she realize that, like, were the choices different on the menu for her than what they would be for a normal, like, what somebody else could eat? Or were they still pretty similar?
They were still pretty similar, and, they would tell her, technically, you can still have whatever you want, but if you do that, you're going to have to give yourself a little bit more insulin, and if you do it more frequently, then that's more frequent shots. And I mean, it's completely different now that we have the pump and the blood glucose monitor. But in the beginning, when we came home, it was like having a newborn again because you have to check your blood sugar every 3 hours. And so we had to get up in the night because if she went low
At
in the
night.
night, yeah.
Which can happen.
Especially when you're trying to figure out your ratios.
Yeah.
Because some people, I mean, every diabetic's ratios of insulin to carbs is different.
Okay.
So they start you out on a sliding scale until they can figure it out more closely. And then we moved to a 1-to-20 ratio. And right now we're at 1 unit of insulin for every 15 carbs.
Okay.
So that was like tricky to figure out. And I would get so angry because I'm like, this is not fair that a 12-year-old has to count carbs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I mean, for sure it makes her aware of things more, what you're putting in your body, what it can do. So as much as, you know, we probably feel like it's not fair, it does bring to mind consequences of things like that a little bit more heavily.
Well, so that is funny that you say that because when we actually would both get angry, then I would take a step back and think like, well, the way that you need to be eating now with your diagnosis is actually the way most people should actually be eating.
Right.
So, and it made me a little angry at the food industry too, that they're able to serve such high sugar foods. I don't know if you've watched the documentary Blood Sugar Rising too, but that is an eye opener as well. So.
Okay, and where can listeners find that one?
On Netflix.
Okay, Blood Sugar Rising? Okay. Well, yeah. That's probably a whole nother podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But I've had the opportunity to be around Avery a little bit, and I'd like to have her on as well to talk to listeners because I think it's cool to get a perspective from somebody who is diagnosed at a young age because it can affect, like it can apply for all of us. But I was telling her one day, you know, you've been able to figure out that you're diabetic at the age of 12. And this is your trial. This is your challenge. It's something you've got to really kind of own and figure it out now. He said, but people are going to have problems down the road. They're going to have challenges and trials too. And maybe it's not diabetes. Maybe it's alcoholism. Maybe it's drugs. It can be a number of things, but like we all have something that we have to like get through and figure out and own. And I don't know what that did for her when I said that, but I'm not sure she had heard it that way before. And I'm just like, you are so ahead of the game because you're figuring it out now. And I was just happy to have that time with her because she said she's amazing. She's amazing. But she plays volleyball. Has she always played softball? Okay, so she was doing those two things. Anything else?
Just those two. And she plays the saxophone, but that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What would you tell people that are listening? What did you find kind of helpful as you were going through this process?
The support around us was what saved us. And her friends were very open to learning about her new needs. And they listened and let us help educate them and so Halloween last year was a big challenge because we did not have our pump or Dexcom yet.
Okay.
And they were like, I remember the moms messaging and they were like, okay, we kind of don't understand, but can she still come trick-or-treating for candy with us? If they sit down and sort candy and eat candy, what is that going to look like? And so just asking questions and being open to learning, that made the world a difference to us. And Avery knew that she didn't have to feel awkward or uncomfortable because she had friends that cared and were willing to support her in it. And yeah, they did exchange candy, and she didn't have any at that time. And we saved them for when she goes low. But that was a lifesaver. And then I also joined a support group for caregivers of loved ones with chronic illnesses. And that pretty much saved my life. And I met a very, very dear friend who has a 4-year-old with type 1 diabetes. And that is a whole new ballgame as well. So,
Wow.
yeah. And so it's really fun to have someone that close that you can empathize with. And when you want to like throw in the towel and swear all day and beat your head in your, like bury your head in your pillow and just punch something, it's nice to have somebody else that's like, yes, those feelings are real. I have felt those too. If you need to go punch a pillow, do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Because you can't, it's real. Like you can't go and hide. You can't, it's just how it is. So what did you learn? What's the biggest thing you've taken away from your caregivers of people with chronic illness,
Okay, there's a quote that we always say.
Yeah.
It's, you don't know what you don't know. And so until you've actually been in that experience, it's really hard to empathize with people because not everybody in that support group has a diabetic kid. Some of them are caring for people with Alzheimer's or, loved ones in heart failure, whatever. And so, but I have more empathy now than I ever did before. Even, I'll be honest and tell you that even when kids would come over with food allergies, I would kind of feel irritated. But now I'm so much more sympathetic and empathetic towards that because I'm like, one bite of the wrong food could kill their kid, and so I always want to make sure I'm accommodating and ask people questions because like I said, you just don't know what you don't know. But the more we can ask and learn from each other, that's the most beautiful thing. I mean, for anything in life. So,
and that's a good lesson for us to remember right now too. But I mean, in all aspects of our life, you don't know what you don't know, and ask questions so that you can become aware and educated on whatever topic it is. Okay, so the pump. So my background too is in nursing, but I've heard that some people, it takes a while to get their pump.
Yeah.
So tell me about her journey in getting her pump.
Okay. So we did apply through insurance to get the blood glucose monitor and the pump. And right now the Tandem T-Slim pump, it's super awesome. They have done a closed loop system with the blood glucose monitor. So she basically has an artificial pancreas operating on the outside of her body because they talk to each other.
That's awesome.
It is so awesome. It is so awesome. Avery was like, I'm glad I didn't get diabetes till now. Because we've talked to people, that got it a couple years ago when that wasn't so seamless. But so we applied for the Dexcom and we thought we were going to have to wait. But my husband is very assertive. And at one of our appointments, he heard that the Dexcom representative was in the building. And so he basically chased her down and was like, can we get one today? I know our insurance is going to approve it. If you have some extras, we'll do whatever we need to get it today. And so
good for him.
Yeah, and that's less pricks. So testing the blood glucose, is like the pricks in the finger.
Yeah, I know. But for those of you that don't, it's kind of a process where you have to alcohol swab and then you have to prick and then you have to get the test strip and scoop up the blood and then you put it in the machine and the machine then gives you a number. So it is a lengthy process. And then once you get the number, you have to do the math, possibly if you're on a sliding scale, to figure out how much insulin to give. And the insulin is life or death. If you give too much, you can go super low and have issues there. And if you don't give enough, you can go let your body get super high and then you're in trouble there too. So it's a very tedious and sensitive, and you have to be so on top of it. So for her to have this pump that talks to the blood glucose monitor is incredible. And okay, so when I was in some of my classes at work, the monitor is linked to technology. So do you get to see her numbers?
Yeah.
On your phone?
Which that's actually kind of a funny story because in the beginning, after she first got that, I told her, we ended up getting her a phone, and I was like, you have to let me follow you because she's the one that controls who follows it since it's on her.
Yeah.
And so she
Got
got
it.
mad at me one morning. I can't remember. It was something that had to do with diabetes, actually, but she got angry with me. And when she got out of the car to go to school, she clicked the unfollow for mom, and I almost went up to that school. By lunchtime, she had turned it back on, but when I picked her up, she knew what she had done, and I said something to her, and she was like, well, then you have to be nice to me, Anyways, yeah, there have been some funny episodes like that where I'm like, all right, this is not cool, Avery, you have to let mom follow you. So,
Well, and what a sticky situation when they're trying to be independent, and yet there's this, diagnosis. There's this life-changing event that then throws them back into a situation of really needing to have several eyes on them, which isn't fun. But what about for you before the pump?
okay.
Like, how did you make it? Because that would be a little scary, especially through the night.
I say we didn't sleep. We didn't. And even after we got the monitor, you set an alarm. So for us, if she goes under 70 or above 150, an alarm goes off. And I'll never forget the one night that I didn't hear the alarm. I was sleeping so hard, and I like hit Joey, and he was like, I ended up hearing it, and he had gone down to correct a low. And so and because it doesn't wake her up. I've talked to some diabetics that their body will like get sweaty and they can sense it in the night. So my cousin also, that's a dear friend of mine, also has type 1 diabetes, and she would fill us in on everything. She would Marco Polo with Avery daily and give her tips, and that was super helpful too. But
More support.
Avery doesn't wake her, it doesn't wake her up yet at night. So, and my cousin said that may not happen till she's older for her to recognize that. Yeah. But so we got the pump right before Christmas, though. Sorry, I didn't answer that last part of your question, but Avery was like, that'll be my Christmas gift. We obviously weren't going to have that be her Christmas gift, but we were excited because she got it right in time for Christmas, and it was super awesome.
Did you finally sleep?
Yes. Yes, we began sleeping again, so I am all for technology.
Yes, and good for Joey, like being assertive and chasing the rep down, because sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to go and advocate for yourself or your family or your child, but the reps are going to be more than happy.
Oh, she was amazing.
Yeah, to accommodate. But some people wait several years to get a pump, which, as we've talked about, is just a little bit of a headache and stressful and a lot of stuff to keep on top of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what is there anything else you want to tell someone that might be going through a similar situation? Like, were you so down when this happened?
Mm-hmm. I think the best thing you can do is talk about it. Don't keep it in. Talk about it. So I kind of do a lot on social media, and a friend of a friend ended up sending something in the mail right before Christmas. I guess her child had been diagnosed a year before. It was a daughter who was a year younger than Avery. And the mom sent me a letter, and the daughter sent her a letter. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool for us to both read them out loud, because it helped me hear her perspective better. Even I could hear her, but it was an outside voice. And then when I read the mom's letter, I felt like it was an eye-opener for Avery, because she was like, oh.
And sometimes we feel like we have to tow the rope alone, and that's not always the case. It's always going to be beneficial to be able to tow the rope with somebody that's towed the rope before. And so if you find yourself in a similar situation, or just needing some support while you're going through your difficult time, Rachel is here. I am here. Please know that if this is an emergent situation, you need to dial 911 and seek professional help in that way. But as far as just being there to support you as you're going through some things that life throws at us, that's why we're here. but professional help is always there, and we do encourage you to seek that as well and take care of yourself and your family in that way. Rachel, thank you. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Yes, she's a rock star and an awesome mama. Thank you guys for being here with us. We want you to go win your day. You've got this, sis.
Thank you for being here with me today. I hope that you have an amazing day and week. Until next time, sis, be sure to remember that you've got this. Also, go on and check out ygtsis.com. There you can find out what we're up to, podcasts, YouTube videos, and even the shop. Don't worry, it's a great place to be. It's a little bit of unwinding, it's a whole lot of real, and it's exactly what you need. Go check it out, ygtsis.com.